Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear sisters. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Salma. I'm a mom of six. I'm a homeschooler, and today's topic is going to be about homeschooling. On this channel, we generally talk about all things related to raising healthy Muslim children, building healthy Muslim families. I talk a lot about healthy, meaning like functional, well adjusted, right? Not toxic, upon the tarbiyah, upon the Quran and Sunnah, right? And so this is kind of what I mean by healthy. So today, this is more geared towards the homeschooling audience, inshallah, and for those of you who might have been homeschooling for a while, not just the beginners, right? And so the issues that I want to talk about today is why homeschooling Muslim kids feel so hard, and it's not about the curriculum, right? I want to talk about the real reasons why this is hard, and again, just to make you feel seen, but also to kind of offer you hope, right? Because this is what we do on this channel. I don't want you to just kind of vent and just be in this negative space, but rather just kind of offer you some solutions as well, right? I've been a homeschooler for many, many years. In fact, I have 3 graduates, alhamdulillah. 3 of my kids have finished homeschooling and they have never been to school. So alhamdulillah, we have many, many years behind us. But we also have 3 more kids ahead of us, right? And so my youngest is only 9. So we still have about 8-9 years, inshallah, to go. So we're kind of in the middle of the journey. And I wanted to share some insights why this is hard and what you can do to make it easier, inshallah. Okay, so the first thing is that it's really not about the curriculum, right? I get a lot of questions from sisters, but which curriculum and which textbooks and all this. And while these things are important, this is actually not what makes or breaks your homeschooling, right? It's the relationship to your kids, right? And so the real struggle of homeschooling is not which curriculum to pick or which textbooks or how to adjust your routine, but rather it exposes the reality of being home together, exposes the cracks in our relationship to the kids, right? And so we are together all day long. You can't fake connection for 6 hours a day, right? And so these kind of things come up in the daily situation. So it's the relationship. So if the relationship to the child is not working, this is the struggle of the homeschooling, right? And so what I mean by that, I mean, if there is tension, if there's miscommunication, that is going to show in your day. And so if you're trying to teach your child Quran and they're in a bad mood, right? And they're resisting, right? That's a struggle. But that has nothing to do with the perfect Quran curriculum. It has to do with the relationship to the child, right? Or you may be being impatient because they're too slow or because they're being distracted, right? And it actually has nothing to do with their distraction. It rather has to do with you feeling unsupported because you have so many other things to get to in the day. So you kind of want to just get it done. And meanwhile, that child is taking forever to do something you consider basic. So it's not really about the child, but about rather you being overwhelmed and stressed, right? And so that's where the relationship kind of starts to crack. So if the relationship with the child is kind of suffering, that's what makes the actual teaching or the curriculum hard, right? So it's not about the curriculum, it's actually really about the relationship. So when people come to me and ask me, okay, I'm struggling with this X, Y, and Z situation in my homeschooling, generally 99% of the time it's not about the curriculum, but it's rather about the relationship, right? And so homeschooling becomes this magnifying glass, so to speak, right? It's just kind of enlarges stuff that's already present in the relationship, but because we're home together all the time, it's just kind of really magnifies it. And so it's not a situation to make you feel bad, right? But it's rather gives you an opportunity to grow. And so this is what I say, that homeschooling is really not about the curriculum, whichever one. 2 plus 2 is 4 in any curriculum, right? And a child can learn that in many different ways. That's not the issue. The issue is how are you going to preserve the relationship and how are you going to grow your relationship? And that's the ultimate beauty of homeschooling, inshallah, right? So that's kind of when it feels hard, examine your relationship, what is going on there, right? The second point is kind of really tied to the first one. And I mean, as you'll see, it's all connected anyway, right? Because we're home together. So much time together, again, just the fact that the kids are not in school, like regardless of what you're doing at home with them, the fact that they're home with you just gives you so much time. And it actually uncovers a lot of unregulated emotions, right? It uncovers, when we're whole day long together, the masks come off. Like, we don't have the child regulation is in our face, but so is ours in their face, right? And so we don't have the luxury of, putting them in school and hiding behind the school hours, right? A lot of homeschoolers come to me and they say, well, how come we have these kids that are so dysregulated? What's up with this new generation? I thought homeschooling is going to make it better. it doesn't make it better or any different. It's just we are home together. Chances are, when you felt dysregulated or when you were having a hard time with your day, you were in school and your parents didn't see it. You didn't see your parents either for like 6 to 8 hours a day, right? And so there was a lot of masking going on both sides of the equation, so to speak, right? So the fact that we're all day together, a lot of stuff is coming up, and that's not a bad thing either. Again, it's just human. But I think a lot of it is unequipped to deal with it because it has, we haven't we haven't had to deal with it in ourselves, right? So homeschooling, again, it's this beautiful magnifying glass that will expose these cracks, that will kind of show the real situation in the household. And this is why so many of us are then end up feeling overwhelmed, because it's not that the child is lazy, but maybe they're anxious, or maybe they're worried about something, or maybe you as a teacher, you're not quite present there. You end up yelling and you end up being frustrated, right? Because something else is bothering you. And in most cases, the moms are just plain overwhelmed, right? Like, it's never the homeschooling, like it's always the supporting network that's missing, right? And so more often than not, it's just everything else surrounding the idea of homeschooling that's being difficult, right? So the fact that you're together all day long, the masks are off, you get to see each other all day long. It seems kids are pushing your boundaries, but those boundaries, were maybe never clear in the first place, right? And so most of us were not raised with any sort of emotional regulation, and we spent a lot of time apart from our families. And so when we were with our families, a lot of times we had to be on our best behavior to be loved, right? And the beauty of homeschooling is that our kids can be real, that our kids can be with us, but it is also overwhelming because we're together 24/7, right? So we get to see all their moods, we get to see all of that, and then a lot of times it makes us feel uncomfortable, right? So we're reacting. So all that time together is uncovering a lot of emotional dysregulation on all sides, and that's something that we should work together when homeschooling, work on this together when homeschooling feels hard, right? And so again, I invite you to just kind of observe your homeschooling struggles, and is it really about the curriculum, but rather is it about emotional dysregulation that's happening in your home because you're together all the time? And again, this is not a bad thing. This doesn't mean your homeschooling is not working or it's not going to work out, but rather it's an opportunity for you to grow, and it's an opportunity for your family to do better and to learn and to come stronger out of this, right? So that's where the homeschooling is really, really transformational, inshallah. The third one that comes up, it's just the clash between your expectations and your reality, right? We start off homeschooling with all these ideals, how it's going to look like: peaceful mornings, happy kids, Islamic routines, right? And then 1 month you're in, the house is a mess, kids are screaming, siblings are fighting, you're crying, and you're wondering, how do I enroll them? Is it too late to enroll them in school? Like, how can I go back? Is this a great idea? And, a lot of fear on your part. Am I messing them up? All the moms that are contacting me, they're always afraid of the future, right? It's not that they're not happy to have their kids at home, but they're worried about universities. They're worried if they're going to turn out okay. They're worried if they're going to be social enough. They're worried about their reading. They're worried about their writing. They're worried. So much fear, right? And then again, this is when our expectations and our reality clash, right? So we start off having really, really high expectations. So this is where I invite you to kind of really be. And a lot of times our expectations are even unsaid. We haven't even formulated them. So then we're just disappointed and we're just feeling bad if it doesn't turn out, right? So I'd really invite you to kind of think about your why. Why are you homeschooling, and what are your expectations? And to kind of put it on paper. And just so you can kind of clarify, is this a realistic expectation? Are the kids going to pretend like they're in school? You're their mom. They feel safe with you. They feel comfortable with you. Of course they're going to be relaxed. Of course they're not in a rush. And that is the whole point. We're not trying to do school over here. We're trying to do the exact opposite. This is why you pull them out of school, so you could have the time, so you could have the energy and the relationship that you have with them, right? And so the reality will never match the fantasy. Like, you just have to accept that. But also, the homeschooling is not about the controlling the future. I think a lot of Muslim parents are being sold this idea, especially nowadays. When I first started 20 years ago, it was such a niche thing. So nobody was really selling anything, right? But nowadays, there is this idea of like, okay, if you homeschool, you're going to protect your kids. If you homeschool, your kid's going to turn out okay. If you homeschool, Allahu alam. we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. Like, we can't prevent qadar, right? Like, we can, maybe we're going to be tested with our children. Maybe we're going to be tested with God knows what, right? Allah alam, we don't know that. So homeschooling is not a remedy against bad outcomes, right? And again, I've been in the Muslim community for like 20 years and I've seen that, right? And it's not the recipe for like, oh yeah, if you just homeschool, if you just pull out your kids, it's much more complicated than that, right? And it might be in fact your test, right? So when you are afraid, this is the issue, right? Then you operate from a place of fear, and then you're not looking at the child that's in front of you. You're rather afraid of some potential outcomes years down the road, right? And I'm saying this to myself as well. This fear, the reason why I'm able to talk about this, because I've been there and done that in the community, right? And with my own children, and I've seen it repeatedly, right? So your fantasy is not going to match the reality. It's okay to be scared, but it's not okay to let that be your guiding principle in your homeschool, just that fear. Oh, I got to crack down on the kids. What if they don't do this? What if they don't do that? But rather just to have that tawakkul and to kind of relax and just be in the moment, be in that day. Enjoy your kids today. Enjoy the mess as much as you can. Get down on the floor and play with them. Listen to them. Have that conversation instead of worrying what are they going to do 20 years from now and how are they going to get to university. And again, I'm not saying those things don't matter, but a lot of times we let that get into the way of homeschooling, right? And so that fear and that doubt, that then guides our decisions, and then we end up making the wrong decisions because we're operating from a place of fear, right? And so trust Allah, focus on the connection, focus on the today and now. How can you make today better instead of worrying, okay, 5 years from now, what are they going to do for their testing? What are they going to do for their high school? Build that relationship in the moment, okay? So again, the biggest problem is not the curriculum. It's the relationship, it's the connection, right? And it's not also about being perfectly regulated either. When I said we were all dysregulated, it's about growing together. It's about repairing. It's about coming back and saying, okay, look, I messed up. I was frustrated. I was stressed out. I shouldn't have taken it out on you. How are you feeling? Are you ready to tackle this project together, right? It's about learning how to get along. And that is the beauty of being home together, right? That is something that's not happening when the kid is in school for 8 hours a day, right? And so, again, it's not about doing it all right, because we won't be able to do so. We are not perfect. We're not angels, right? And so we're going to mess up. And the sooner you accept that, the better. And that's been certainly a process for me, because, I wanted to do it all. And I wanted to do it all right. And again, Allah has shown me that this is not possible, and the perfection only belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So we have to kind of lean into the process, that the process is messy, that it's not going to be perfect, but it's these relationships that we're building over here, right? That's the main crux of homeschooling. It's the relationships, not the curriculum, right? So I just want to leave you with that, just to contemplate, what is bothering you in your homeschool? Is it one of those things? Like, is it the time together that's exposing the cracks? Is it the dysregulation on both your parts? Is it the lack of trust in future? Like, is it the fears that you have about how, things are going to turn out, inshallah? And then I invite you to sit with that and, and kind of identify that for yourself. What is bothering you? What are these things? You can put it down in the comments, inshallah, as well. And then I also invite you then to make dua, to ask Allah to make us strong on this path, to let us see our children with love and care, and not just these potential time ticking projects, that if we don't get it right now, everything is going to go bad, right? Allahu alam, Allah controls the outcome. So we do the best we can in the moment. And this is why we have chosen homeschooling, because we want to spend this time with the family. But again, this is then the real raw reality, right? And so if we want to do Islamic or Muslim homeschooling, this is where the work starts. It starts in our families, working on ourselves and showing up. Often moms ask me about curriculum. They ask me about hifz tips. They ask me about homeschooling tips. They ask me about, Arabic resources or something, or okay, which sheikh to follow and these kind of things. And then in the same breath, they're telling me how much they're yelling at the kid, or, if they're hitting them, if they're frustrated, that, there is this tension in the household, that the kids are scared, that the kids are lying, that something's coming up, right? This is a relationship issue. This is a, connection issue rather than a homeschooling issue. So in case we want to build healthy Muslim practicing families, we have to start at the root cause of all these kind of things, which is then the connection, the repair, the self-regulation on all parts, because Allah sees our effort, and that's what matters, inshallah. All right, so I hope this helps, inshallah. I run the Muslim community called Mommy Mondays. You can check it out, inshallah. Here somewhere in the description there's going to be a link. We open our doors every 3 months, so if this is something you'd like to explore, if this is a place you'd like to have where you can discuss these kind of things, if you're interested in homeschooling and you would like that support from other like-minded sisters, we get together on Zoom every Monday. It is a subscription based model, and every Monday we check in with each other and we discuss all kinds of topics related to motherhood and raising healthy Muslim children, inshallah. So if you're interested in that, do check it out, and I see you in the next video, inshallah. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.